Now task G is a bit trickier than other tasks with the counter. So the cat is going to get 1 point every time it catches a mouse. Okay, so we've got to make a counter and increase it by 1 for every mouse caught. Now we're given the counter class already to use. We don't need to change the counter class. We have to use it, not change it. Okay, so the counter is made with an image. 0 is the first score. Then we're going to increase the count by any amount. I think we'll use 1, okay, as our increase in the score. So we're given the class. We don't change this counter class, I don't think. Just have to use it. Now we need to add. The first thing is to add a counter to the world. Okay, add a counter. So in our ground class, we're going to add a counter. Now the counter is a little bit different to the other objects. We made these objects as local variables inside the prepare method. For the counter, it must be a global variable available to the whole class, okay? Because other classes, like the cat, need access to the counter. If it's a local variable, they will not be able to access the counter. So the counter must be a global variable. We declare that up here. Private counter. Okay, so that declares a counter as a field in this class. Now we can add that counter to the game, to the world, with all the rest of them. So I'm going to do counter equals new counter. Okay, bracket like that. And then we can add object counter. I'll make it counter have the coordinates 0, 0, so top left of the screen. If I compile this, the counter should appear now in the game. There it is there, okay? Start at 0, right? So we've added the counter. Now we need to change the cat code so it will go up by 1 every time the cat catches a mouse. Now to do this, we need to, in the ground class, in the world class, where we make the counter, we need a new method called get counter, so other classes can get access to this counter. And the get counter method isn't a void method. It actually, because what have I missed here? Oh, did I put the wrong? Oh yeah, okay. All right, I'll compile this after. Before we had move or the eat mouse was a void method, because they didn't give back an answer. They didn't return anything to the person using the method. The counter, the get counter method, is going to give back the counter to the person who calls this method. So return counter. So this counter here is the class name of that, the type of the object being asked for and returned. And this counter, small c, is the actual name of the object there, okay? Does that make sense? Yeah, I hope. So this is the type of the data being returned, and that's the actual data being returned, okay? So now other classes can get access to this counter, and they can use it to increase the score. In the world class, we make the counter, and then make a method to return it, okay? Let me compile that. That should work. Okay, so the world class, the ground class, now has a counter. The cat class has to use that counter. Okay, so let's go back to the eat mouse method. So now we have to make a counter here equals world dot get counter. Okay, let me explain this line. Right, so the cat has access to the world it's in, and the world is a type ground. The ground, we just made a method in the ground class called get counter, and that's what we use here. Okay, we're now using the method we just made to get access to the counter that we need to increase. Okay, the counter's in the world, so on the world object we call the get counter to get access to it. So now we have access to this counter. We can now counter dot, and the method we use in counter is called increase count or bump count or something. Yeah, bump count. Okay, just copy that. So it's counter dot bump count, and how much do we bump it by? Just 1. Okay, so let me compile that. Oh, I made a typo there. Give it last space. Compile that. Okay. So now if I play the game, catch the mice, the pop should sound if I ever catch them, and the counter should go up as well by 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's worked fine. So that's the code you need for the counter for the score. Okay, let me just summarize that what I just did. In the world class, which for us is the ground, I declare a counter field as a global variable. I create that counter, okay, in the game, then I add a method to return it to other classes which need it. Okay, so there's 3 parts there: make the variable, make the field, add it to the game, make a method for it. Okay, so now we've made the counter. The cat class can then use that counter. Okay, get counter to get access to it, and then use the counter to increase the count. Okay, so that's all the code you need to make the counter and add 1 to the score. Okay, good.